Welcome back to the Eye of Jupiter podcast. I'm your host, Tom Franklin, and today we have on Mr. George Lunsford. So, as you remember, last week I was speaking to Harley Owens, and he was talking about one of his encounters with the Sasquatch Bigfoot, and he was telling me that he was in the forest with George Lunsford, the author from North Carolina. I don't know if he's from there, but he lives there now. We'll put it that way. And I was like, wait a minute, I know George Lunsford. And then Harley's like, well, just reach out to him so we can collaborate the story. Not that I don't believe Harley. Of course I believe Harley. But now we have George coming on to tell us his side of the story and how he's seen it. So without further ado, please welcome to the Eye of Jupiter podcast, Mr. George Lunsford.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, George, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, I reckon. I'm fat. And
pretty
happy.
good. Pretty good, you reckon? So do me a favor, George, or do our viewers and listeners a favor from the Eye of Jupiter podcast. Please go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and where we can find you.
Okay, I'm George Lunsford. I've authored 2 books that are out right now. One called Legends, Myths, Monsters, and Ghosts, the USA edition. And that book has at least 8 stories or more for every state in the United States, plus 5 stories for each of the Indian tribes. And there's 5 Indian tribes in the book.
Wow. Okay.
And I call them Indians because when I spoke to the elders, they referred to themselves as Indians. So, of course, I'm going to show my respect and do the same thing.
Exactly.
And have another book.
In the second book?
I do. And it's called Monsters of the World Reference Guide. I actually wrote this with podcasters in mind. It has stories and information about 104 different cryptid creatures all over the world. And I also have 26 personal encounters that were sent to me.
Oh, wow.
And I was very honored to tell their stories.
Interesting. So let's go ahead and do you have like anything else? You have a website? Do you have any what do they call that? Social media presence, George?
I'm on Facebook, YouTube. Facebook. I'm on YouTube, MeWe, Tumblr, X, Instagram. Just wherever you want to look for me, I'm there somewhere.
Wow, there are a lot more places than I am because I can't. I can't even keep up with Facebook half the time. What am I going to be on the computer all day long? I can't do that.
I don't keep up with it. I was kind of hit and miss there. And
okay. Well, eventually your books will take off because I'm most certain of that, and you'll have somebody who does that for you.
I hope so. And of course, I got to mention my website that my beautiful, intelligent wife made for me because I'm not smart enough to do that. It's called authorgeorgelunsford.x10host.com.
All right. So do me a favor at the end of the show. Go ahead and message me all your links and your bio and all your links to your books. And then I'll put them in the show notes. That way, if you want to find George, you guys can go ahead and click on there and go ahead and buy his books. We had him on the podcast, the recent podcast, one of my former podcasts, Lost Frequency, episode 6. You can go back and listen to that as well. It is on this channel. And you can go back and listen to some of the stories. So we might even get into a couple of those again today because those were actually quite fun. But the reason I got you on here, George, is not only because of your books and your wonderful personality and your wonderful, smart, and beautiful wife. It's because you were in the forest of East Tennessee with a good friend of mine, Mr. Harley Owens. And you had yourself an encounter. So go ahead.
My first Bigfoot encounter.
All right. Do me a favor. Slow it down. Break it down kindergarten style for me. Go by step what you ran into, my friend.
I'll start from the beginning. Harley was investigating this area that we went to investigate. He'd been investigating for about 2 months. And he asked us to come up there and go with him and check everything out because he's one of the NCI guys. So,
what is an NCI guy?
We have a podcast, and we also formed a group called NCI, North Carolina Investigates. And we have someone in Georgia, we have someone in Tennessee, there's a couple of us in North Carolina, and we're kind of spreading out a little bit, trying to, set up different areas we can go do research on any kind of cryptid creature, whether it be
no kidding, that's
Bigfoot
cool, George.
Or Dogman or anything.
That's fantastic. I didn't even know that, dude. You make sure you send that link to me as well if you have anything of that nature. I didn't know that. You keeping me out of the circle, George?
We've been ghost hunting and everything.
Oh, that's so cool, dude. That is so cool. All right, so you get in contact with Harley. He's like, "Hey, I'm researching this part in the Smoky Mountains. Why don't you come on out?" It was about maybe a couple hour drive for you from I think you're
Hour and a half or so,
hour and a half. All right, all right.
something like
So
that.
okay,
Well, we go up there and we meet up with Harley, and we drive over to the site. We get out, and the funny thing is, as we're pulling in the woods to the site, I'm seeing elk scrapings, I'm seeing deer scrapings on all the trees. So I know there's plenty of food there for the Bigfoot or whatever's up there. When
there's
we get
elk.
out, huh?
There's elk in the Smoky Mountains.
Yo, yeah, up
I
around
didn't know
Case
that.
Cove and everything.
Oh, okay.
And we got them in Cherokee and Maggie Valley and everything. They've released them all up there.
Oh wow.
So we get out and we start up. We didn't get maybe 40 yards from the truck, and we already started seeing signs of Bigfoot and everything else. Harley
Such
showed us
as
one of the arches that was made
okay.
where they took
Mm-hmm.
a sapling about inch and a half, 2 inches around and bent it over, and then laid another tree on the end of it to make it into an arch. We knew it wasn't a natural fall because the stump for the log that was across the end of it was 20 yards in the opposite direction.
Oh wow, that's weird.
Yeah, something had to actually pick it up and set it on that sapling.
Okay. All right. Go
And
ahead, Harley. Harley's out there doing it, ain't he?
Harley's doing good. He's a
Uh,
smart kid. He's on it.
all
And we
right.
found, you know, 3 inch round trees that had been twisted off and bent over and broke about anywhere from 6 to 7 foot up high. And they were still green because they still had leaves on
Okay.
them. We found a Dogman track
Okay.
that
Could you
was
describe that?
about 5.5 inches wide and probably 6 to 7 inches long. It's really hard to determine because it was in leaves, and we could see three of the four pads, and we could see all four fingernail punchers in the ground.
Wow.
And so we started moving through the woods and checking things out, and some of the things I kind of busted on because they were done by bear and not Bigfoot. You could tell they'd been clawed out, and he'd been down digging for grubs and stuff like this. So we found bear sign also, and we found all this different sign. We found the X marking. We found an ambush site that would be the envy of any hunter.
Oh, he was telling me about that.
Yeah, it was awesome. He had the creature had stood the logs up like a kind of like a half circle,
Okay.
and I could stand up in the ambush site, but it was in this right where three trails come together. Trail this way, a trail this way, and a trail this way.
You
And it
mean like
was
a
set
game
right in the
trail?
corner. Yeah,
Like a game trail? Oh
yeah.
wow.
So it was perfect. I mean, if it was nighttime and he was hunting, he could sit right there in that blind and wait for something to come by and grab it.
I'm kidding.
And we went on up. We was checking different things out as we found crosses. We found other things up through there. And as we come over the top of the hill, as we started down the other side, we seen something that surprised us. It was a fresh skid mark, or like something had running and hit the mud and slid sideways a little bit.
Okay.
And it was a Dogman track. We could see the pads and the toenail. And we went down and we found structures like human structures that used to be there, foundations and stuff like that down there. And we come back up and we got to the top of the hill by a graveyard, and Harley punches me. He says, "Hey, let's go down that flat and follow that up." I said, "Okay." So me and Harley drops down in the flat, and Robert and his wife go down the dirt road.
Who's
Robert Effler.
Robert?
Robert Effler. He's a mother teammate.
Robert Edler. You can send me his information too. I'd like to get his account of this story as well. If he
Okay.
would come on, do you think he would come on?
Oh, I'm sure he would.
Okay,
Robert
just send
likes
me that
running his mouth
information.
too.
Okay, great. That'd be
But
great.
Robert Effler and his wife Michelle took off down the dirt road. We dropped down the flat. We got down the flat. We found more bear sign, and we come up on a hill. Right? There was a hill that we're on right here, and right straight across from us, 20 yards away, is another hill. And there's trees and everything over there. And Harley punches me. He goes, "There he is." I said, "Harley, that's a shadow."
Yeah,
He
he
said,
was
"No,
saying that you
seriously, man."
said that. He was saying that you said that. He was
Yeah,
telling me
I
that you
did.
said that. Yes.
Oh, big time. I mean, because it didn't look like nothing but a shadow. It had been snowing and sleeting on us. So it was like there's lots of shadows in the woods anyway. And I said, Harley, that's a shadow. He said, no, I'm telling you, man, it's Bigfoot. I said, that's a shadow. He said, wait right here. He said, watch the shadow. I'm going to move closer to it. I said, okay, go ahead. He starts down the hill and and he gets right to the edge of this thicket where you can't be seen from the other hill. And he steps on a branch and it sounds like a shotgun blast. Pow! Well, the shadow that I'm watching leans out and the arm comes back and grabs the tree and leans as far as he can to see where Harley's at.
Holy crap, dude.
And I can see this thing from the waist up. Now, granted, it didn't stay there but just a second. But for me, it was slow motion.
I've heard of it, yes.
And and the adrenaline hits me and I start vibrating. And I can see the neck come up to the side of the head like this. I can see the conical head. I can see hair. We call it alfalfa because it had hair sticking up in the center of its head.
Okay.
And I hollered, excuse my language, I hollered, oh shit, I took off after it. Because I'm not smart enough to run away from it. I got to go after it.
You did the complete opposite of what most people would do.
So I catch Harley and I pass Harley, and he comes up behind me. We go up the hill, and it's gone. But this again is another one of those places where he had the best area because he could watch everything we were doing for the time we got down in that flat.
No kidding.
There was a tree right beside him and another big tree beside that. Then he had laurels on both sides of the hill for about 20 feet that had opened up on each end. So he could either drop off to the left or right without being seen.
Oh, wow. So
Go
ahead, good, George.
They're incredible smart. I mean, it's scary. We found 3 toe prints and a little remnants of a big toe and a remnants of a small toe. And I looked at the limb where the head was. It was 2.5 feet higher than me, and I'm 6 foot tall.
Holy crap! So 8.5 feet.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
man.
We took off down that 20 foot opening that he had, and we thought which way to go. And Robert called up on the radio and said, "What are you guys doing? Something about 40 yards ahead of you guys is tearing the woods up, and it flushed a bunch of birds up."
All right.
So we drop off the left side thinking we're going to catch him. Of course, as soon as the Bigfoot saw Robert and him, it stopped and it eased back around behind the hill. As we went off to the left side of the hill, it came up to the right side of the hill and just sat down behind us. So we hit this laurel thicket that we couldn't even see no more than 3 feet in front of us. And I'm thinking the whole time, this thing's going to kill us. It's going to grab us, jerk us out of us, and break us in half. Because we couldn't see. We finally got out. We made it back over the road, and they told us the story of what they seen. But that was it.
Wow.
And it was amazing.
Was that your first encounter?
My first Bigfoot encounter, yeah.
So that gives so now because I know you've been writing stories, going around collecting stories, having people sent to you. You've been speaking to Indian people, as you refer to them, and now the validity of what you've been writing about now hits home. What does that feel like?
It's great. I love it because
I've
experienced ghosts. I've experienced UFOs. Now I've experienced Bigfoot.
Okay, ghosts. What ghosts did you experience, George? I don't think I heard this one yet.
Oh, I've been dealing with ghosts for years, man. My first one happened when I was in my late teens. Okay. My dead grandmother come to me and told me goodbye. My great grandmother, I was laying in bed. It was early morning, late night. Whichever one you want to call, about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And I felt something. So I woke up and my great grandmother was sitting on the end of my bed, smiling at me. And I could smell her perfume.
Oh, man.
So she told me, she said, I just wanted to tell you bye, that I'm going home and that I love you. And I said, I love you too, Granny. And she smiled real big and then she just disappeared. Well, of course, I woke up.
Did this happen while she was still alive?
No, we didn't know, but she had passed away that night.
Oh, my God, dude.
And I thought I woke up thinking, well, that was a weird dream. And
Uh-huh.
then we found out my great grandmother had passed away. And I thought I didn't think a whole lot bad until I walked back in my bedroom and I could still smell her perfume.
All right, George, I'm going to speak to the audience right now. Here, hold on for a second.
Go
Now,
ahead.
I know George for, well, I don't know you well. I've spoken to you, I think it was 6 to 8 months ago.
Yeah.
So when we had you on the podcast, episode 6, I think it was. I can't remember quite exactly. It was a long time ago.
It's been a
So
while.
I know George. George, he was like, oh, I haven't had any weird experiences, and he starts breaking it down. He come to find out George has had a lot of experiences. It's just you had to have his memory jogged. But at the same time, what I'm trying to tell you guys is, okay, so I'm talking to Harley. I don't know that Harley knows George, but I know both Harley and George, and they both are corroborating the same story. So the validity of these forest people, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you call them, for me, has always been real, but now it's just like hitting the hammer on the nail. All right, let's talk to George again. So, so now that you've seen this, George, do you want to go back out in the woods and continue to do your research with Harley, or do you want to do areas closer to where you're living, or what does it make? What does it make you do? Does it make you want to write another book, or what's in the future for you?
Well, I'm going back. I'm going back to 6th up there with Harley, April
All
6th.
right, all right.
And we've got another place we're going to next month over in Franklin.
Hey, Franklin.
Yep, Franklin. But he has 5 family groups of Bigfoot living above his house.
Who?
A friend of ours, Tim Dills.
Okay, okay.
Well, we're going there to investigate that too. And we just heard about a dogman attack of
Oh
some
man.
farm animals close to here. So we're trying to get it set up so we can go over there and investigate that as well. And I've
Well,
got 3 ghost tracks lined up.
okay. So I want to be involved with this the best I can. So this one's going to be an exclusive. I'm going to pump this one out. Let's see, what day we have? Wednesday. I'm going to pump this out tomorrow.
Okay.
I got another podcast right after this with a good friend of mine. He's a very funny gentleman. Has a great YouTube channel, and he does all kind of. He's very funny. He's coming on later. So
Cool.
and that's 8 till 9 o'clock. So between then and now, so I got an hour window. I'm going to pump this joker out and get everyone because it's like this ongoing story. It's like I got the scoop, and it's fantastic. That's so great. So you're going to go back out. So eventually in the future, I'd imagine, since you are now collecting your own, you're going to probably put out another book, aren't you, George?
I am, but the next book I'm putting out is going to be, the working title is Cryptid Canines. And I'm writing more about Dogman. I'm writing about hellhounds, werewolves, skinwalkers, and chupacabra.
Okay. Have you been
And the
talking
cool thing is,
to Have you been talking to experiencers of this?
I am going to put some whatever I expect, because Harley has a great experience with one of the dogmen.
Right.
That
Right.
almost kept him out of the woods, but
Yes.
he went back, and we're all going back, and we're going to investigate this. So his story will be in the book.
You're going to go packing, ain't you? You're going to bring some
Oh, I
weaponry, aren't
always
you?
pack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm an old gunner's
you're,
mate. I'm always carrying. So
you're old country boy. Old country boy. I can hear it in your voice. Now,
that too.
now I know you're a religious man, George. I know that. I know you're a man of
Yes, sir.
God, Christ, and all that. I know it's a big thing with you. I asked these questions a lot. How do you square your Bigfoot encounter with your religion? Where does that fit in with you in your I don't know, your life, your idea of what life is? How does that work for you?
It's just another one of God's creatures.
Oh my
It's
God,
it,
all right.
it's as much just like aliens. Aliens is another creation of God. To me, God created everything, so He created them. You know,
Okay.
unless I
Because
find
it's
out that they're descendants of the Nephilim, then that
okay.
and if they are, which I do believe they are, I think they're descendants of the giants, but not necessarily the Nephilim.
Okay. And why?
Because everything, in my first book, I wrote my theory in there. If you look up what the Native Americans or Indians, when they first come across the bridge, they ran into giants here. There has been giants in every country in the world, and they're recorded in ancient texts. They're recorded in ancient religious texts as well. And when the Indians got here, they run into them and attacked them because they were cannibals.
The Giants
And
were.
yeah, the giants were. They call them the red-headed giants. They call them the moon-eyed giants. They're called I can't remember all the different names that they had for them. But I believe when they attacked them, they scattered out and they went into the cave systems because America, well, not just America, but America, for this example, has some of the biggest cave systems in the world. I mean, you can go into the Mammoth Caves and end up anywhere you want to in the United States.
You think it connects that far?
Oh yeah, we have a cave that I've heard the others talk about, along with the elder Indians, that goes from Cherokee all the way down to Atlanta.
Whoa.
I don't know if it's true, but I've heard
Uh-huh.
stories about it all my life.
Uh-huh. Do you
And
think maybe these Bigfoot or these giants are using these cave systems to like keep themselves, I guess, out of our view?
I think they did. I think now that there's so many of them, because the reports are going crazy now. We're getting
I
more
noticed.
reports of giants, and we're getting more reports of dogmen and all that stuff more than we've ever before had.
Okay, do
And
you think it's the
dogmen
internet?
actually go all the way back to 400 BC.
Okay. So do you think it's because these reports are on the increase or on the incline? Is it because of the internet? Because people are more talking about it, or is there actual an actual an increase in the actual accounts?
I think both. I think because people no longer get that you're crazy like they used to all the time.
Uh
I mean,
huh.
back when I was in the military, you didn't talk about seeing a UFO.
Right.
Everybody thought you was nuts. Nowadays, it's passing conversation.
Right.
And I think
Right.
now that that veil's been lifted to where people's no longer afraid to talk about it as much, I think it's getting out more. We're getting more reports about the actual creatures. And I think we're having more encounters because more of the forest is getting taken away. Their area is getting smaller.
Right. And the areas that actually still exist that are under are under protection are then just more like they're boxed into this area, and
Yeah,
they can't like extend back out because of our encroachment. So
right.
therefore, when you go into these areas, there's more of them.
Yeah. And that place
Okay.
over where Harley's been going, he's actually found a couple more areas, but they're the same way. There's so much activity, you can almost count on something happening when you go.
I got to get myself up to East Tennessee with you fellas. Oh man.
Come on.
I'll come, but you definitely, dude. You gotta give me at least a 9 millimeter or something, dude. I'm former
Oh,
military. We can go.
we'll hook you up with something. Don't worry
All
about
right,
that.
there we go. That's cool. That's cool. Well, I gotta make a little more money. I'm trying to make sure I have food for the month. You know how that stuff works. I'm not pouring concrete for no reason down here, dude.
No, nobody pours concrete for fun. So,
No. It's like, you know what? I'm bored today. Let's go pour some concrete.
hey, I do facility maintenance. I can definitely understand that.
Yeah, I'm going to be end up doing that too. A little bit of maintenance for like some rental companies around here and stuff too. That seems to be the next job I'm going to have lined up, which is good.
Oh,
A
that's
little bit
cool.
better pay. Yeah, man. So the next question I was going to ask you. So if these Bigfoot encounters are on the rise, do you, in your opinion, you think the U.S. government actually knows they exist? And if they
Oh
do,
yeah.
why are they hiding it?
I don't know why they're hiding it. I know the fact that they do know that they are there. If they didn't know, they wouldn't put out signs saying caution, don't engage, don't look at these things. I mean, I've seen the official booklets and stuff that were put out by the government, by the Forest
Okay.
Service, by the U.S. military, not to engage these things, not to bother them. Why would you put that out if it wasn't real?
Subterfuge.
I had a friend who was one of the he did the mountain recon and stuff like that for the army. Can't
Hmm.
remember what they're called now. My brain's not working.
Ranger,
What he wasn't a ranger,
Pathfinder,
but he was
Pathfinder.
I don't remember what it did. I don't know. Advanced party.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
I guess I'm not Army anymore. I was Navy for my time, so
Yeah, that's pretty sad, George.
I know.
I'm former Army, but I wasn't a grunt, so I guess kind of the same thing. I just couldn't be on the boat, dude. I don't want to be on the boat.
Oh,
No,
it's the
thank you.
best thing ever, man. It's awesome.
All right,
I
all right.
love being on the ship. That's the best part of the Navy is being on the ship.
Why?
I was
Why
on.
is
I
it the best
spent a
part?
lot of time on aft lookout, especially because you're out there. If it's beautiful outside, you got the sea wind hitting you. You got just beautiful water you're looking at, and all kinds of sea life moving around. I've
Stars.
seen I've seen orcas chasing tuna and playing with them. I've seen blue whales. I've seen puffins. I've seen
Wow. All right.
thousands and thousands of hammerhead sharks at one time.
So you're kind of like a National Geographic like guy with missiles. That's what
Yeah,
basically.
basically.
All right, I get it. I get
You
it.
know
I got
me.
this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're just like, oh, look at all this beautiful sea life. Hey, we got the Tomahawk missile ready. Wow, that's fantastic. So you were also telling me why you were doing to look at it one time. You'd seen something that was not explainable. Could you maybe tell me about that again?
The UFOs.
Yeah, you were doing a. You were. I don't remember if you were starboard or what. Are you port
I was
bow? I don't.
Africa as usual. Now the Persian Gulf, I spent my time on the front of the ship, and the rest of
Okay.
the time I spent my time behind the ship. So you know.
Oh, okay.
But I was on aft lookout. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. Uh, and the forward lookout calls me. He said, "Do you see that over on the port side?"
Hmm.
So I swing around under the binoculars. I said, "Oh, there's lights over there." I started watching it. They're about 8 miles away because the horizon's at 10 miles. So that was about 8 miles away. And I'm watching these lights, and it's just a round. It looks like a round circle of lights. And the first thing that pops in my mind is a submarine con tower because
Oh,
at that distance, that's kind of what it reminds you of. So we call combat, and they say, "No, there's nothing out there." So, well, yeah, there is. I'm looking at it. So, you know, and they're
uh huh.
telling us they're checking sonar, they checked radar, they checked everything, and they had nothing there. And everybody else pretty much went, "Nah," and quit watching it. I was watching even more because, that's who I am. And this thing, I got to looking, and it's actually not touching the water. It's
Okay.
above the water, and it's going back and forth, but it's keeping up with the ship as it goes back and forth, almost like it's
Okay.
searching for something.
Okay.
So I'm watching. I was like, "What in the world is it? What is this?" And all of a sudden, this thing lights up and just lights everything up, and it shoots straight up in the sky and disappears.
I don't know what to say, George. The floor is yours.
Well,
You got me.
everybody kind of got on the radio and it says, "We didn't see that, did you?" Nope, we didn't see nothing.
Yeah, I can
you
imagine,
know
dude. I can imagine.
what?
You're out there, you're trying to do a mission and all that, and you see something like that, and it just does not fit in with the world view. Especially if you're, what are you in the Gulf War, the first one?
I was there before that. I was there in '88.
Okay, in the Persian Gulf.
Yep,
Okay,
and that was
I'm
when we
not
was
gonna.
crossing the. We was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when that happened. There was nothing there. I mean, there was no land. There was nothing. We were almost right dead in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Holy crap, dude.
And even better than that, my wife and
Okay,
I went up to Chicago to see the grandkids, some of the grandkids. We've got 7. Went up to see some of the grandkids, and we were coming back. We decided to fly instead of drive this time. So we were flying back. We hit 30,000. The captain comes over the intercom, so we're now at 30,000 feet. And my wife elbows me. She says, "What is that?" And I look, and out away from the plane, I guess it was 5 or 6, 7, 8 miles, whatever. And it was just a silver cigar shaped tube. There was no signs of propulsion. There was no wings. There was no tail fin. There was no windows. And it was keeping up with the plane. It was just flying out there by us. And she looked at it. She's like, "I'm gonna get a picture." And she turned her eyes away and reached down to get her phone. And this thing went boom. It was gone.
Wow. I guess the question I want to ask you is, what do you make of all this? What do you make of this UFO, these cryptids? What is it? Because it's mysterious, because we've taught in school and we're taught, like, everything's been searched and found and there's no more land to be found. There's no more mysteries.
Yeah.
Magicians are not real. Like, what is it? What is your opinion? Like, what is this that we're encroaching upon?
Basically, we've been lied to all of our lives. And I mean, we've only found what 5-10% of the ocean is the only thing we know. We have just in two, I guess two of our forests around here, just two of our national forests. We've got 4 or 5, but just two of them is over 1 million acres. And in that area, people only go into a small percentage of that because they're never going to go from one end to the other. They
Right.
just never do
The
unless they walk the
inaccessibility.
Appalachian Trail.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
inaccessibility of it. Yes, I'd imagine.
right?
Sure.
So we're just now starting to see things that's always been there, but we've always been lied to and always had tunnel vision. We've only
Right.
seen what we're supposed to see because we're
Right,
taught
George.
you're not supposed to see but this.
Right.
And once my eyes got open, I see everything now. I mean, after now I experienced some weird stuff when I was young, and then after I died and come back,
Oh,
I opened up that other veil, and I was able to see much more after that. And then with all the research I've been doing, it's just opened up everything to me.
wow. Okay. What do you mean died and come back, George? What do you mean by that?
Oh, I had pneumonia and died for a short period of time.
Oh, okay. I love it's so nonchalant. George, like, I had a cheese sandwich down at the local, slop house.
That's what gets me. Everybody tell me they see ghosts as life change. They see Bigfoot as life changing. For me, it's just another day.
Okay, so you died, but you came back. So you would consider that a near death experience. So what did you experience during this episode?
Okay, well, I'll set you the whole thing up here.
All right.
I hate going to the doctor. I just despise going to the doctor. And I got sick, and I was in really bad shapes, and I couldn't breathe real good. I was having a hard time. I finally decided to go to the doctor, and they forced me to. My family. I go to the doctor, and the woman that checks me out tells me I have bronchitis and gives me some medicine. I don't even know what it was now. I go back home, and a week later, I can't breathe. I'm taking really short breaths trying to breathe. I'm extremely lethargic. I can't hold my head up. I can't hold my arms up, and I'm basically just a limp rag sitting in a chair. And they forced me to the hospital.
Okay.
So they dragged me out, put me in a car, take me to the emergency room. Both lungs are over half full with fluid,
Oh my lord.
and I'm in really bad shape. My blood pressure is bottoming out. Everything was going bad. So they filled me up with all kinds of stuff and started working on me. And I guess it was either that night or a night later when they finally got me up to a room. And I was laying there because I was out of it. I mean, I was totally out of it. And all of a sudden, I woke up and I felt really good. I had no problem. Everything was great. And I looked up and the clock, that's what got my attention was the clock, the second hand was stopped. Nothing was moving on the clock. And I thought, well, this is cool. Then I realized there's a woman standing beside my bed, an older woman. I look over and she introduced herself to me, and she was just a sweet older lady. So I sat up in the bed and I jumped down to talk to her. I look over and I'm still in the bed.
Oh man.
So I just kind of didn't really think anything about it. Just kind of shrugged it off. And people started walking through the walls of my room. And I look over in the corner and I can only describe what looked like an angel. It was just a dark figure with wings. You could see the wings on the back. And the only thing that had any color or anything to it was his eyes. He had deep, the most incredible blue eyes you've ever seen in your life. And I still see them when I close my eyes. But he had
Wow.
the most amazing blue eyes, and it was the most common thing I've ever seen. I was just relaxed. There was no anxiety. There was nothing anxious. And I was talking to all these people as they come through the walls of my room. And the angel raises his hand up, and this little dot of light forms on the wall. And all of a sudden, poof! It's gone. There's nothing but a big bright light there. The whole wall was a bright light. Nothing that reflected though, and nothing you could see through. It was just a bright light. There's no way to describe it for me.
Okay.
And each one of the people started walking in, telling me bye. They come by and shook my hand, told me bye. And
Shook your
I knew
hands.
every one of their names. Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
And they walked into the light and they disappeared. And then there was just me and the little lady there. And I said, well, I guess it's my turn. And I started walking towards. She grabbed me. And she said, no, honey, no. You stay here. You got things you got to do.
You got 2 books to write, George.
So I went over and I sat back down on the bed on top of my body. And she said, just lay down. Everything's going to be good. So I laid down and I raised my head up, and she walked over to the light. And she turned and she waved at me. She smiled real big, and she walked in, and it all disappeared. No angel, no light, no nothing.
Wow.
So I laid back down, and all of a sudden I hear alarms going off, and people come running in my room. And one of the nurses runs over to me, and she's going to check me. And I just opened my eyes and looked at her. I said, what are you doing? And son, she about passed out. And they all stopped. There's like 3 of them, and they all stopped. And 2 of them left, and my nurse was still there. And she goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm just laying here. What are you doing? She said, you were dead. I said, I feel pretty good, though, but thanks. And we were talking, and I said, I got a question to ask you. She said, okay. I named the old lady that I was talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And son, all the color in her face just went away. She got pale white. And she said, what did you say? And I told her the name again. And she said, she died in this room before you got here.
Oh my.
I was like, oh, well, that's cool. And I started naming all these other people and describing them. And each one of those people that had been in my room died in the hospital within a day or so.
Oh my.
And I back then I could tell you what everyone looked like, what every one of them's name was, everything, what the job they did, everything.
That's incredible.
It's pretty wild.
I'm sure this had an effect on your life. I mean, I think I asked you the same question like that. How did this affect you going forward in your life?
I just quit taking things for granted. I went through a little wild phase, but then I just kind of remembered all that come back to me, and I was remembering it. And I started get myself straightened out, and me and my wife got baptized together and everything.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, she's a great lady. She's awesome.
Yeah.
She told me if I put the camera on her, she's going to hurt me, so I can't put the camera on her.
No, Mrs. Lunsford, we're not going to do that to you. Yeah, it's always life is always a little bit better when you have someone with you that is like your best friend. You know
she's awesome. She's
yeah.
If it wasn't for her, you guys couldn't read my books.
Oh, okay. So that's me. You're me.
I'm the writer. She's the brains.
Yeah, I can't. Like, paperwork has always been a mystery to me. Computer programming has always been a mystery to me. But like this, the interaction, the talking to witnessers. Right, that's me. That's who I am. I love talking to people, cracking a little joke, just kind of, giving a little levity to the situation, because it could be for many people very traumatic having these experiences that you had. Now, I want to ask you to rank these now. The NDE's got to be up there, but this Bigfoot experience that you had, where does that fit in? Like, it's got to be up there because you love it so much.
In all my experiences together, or just my
just like your
experiences?
George, you can categorize your experiences however you'd like.
I'll go overall. How's that sound? I'll put it on about probably fifth. Well, yeah, I got, I come to the Lord, married my beautiful wife, had 2 kids. You know.
All right. Okay. So you were born again, or it was like a later thing in your life, or how did that happen?
uh, we just, I don't know, things just happened. We was going to non-denominational, thank you, church because she's Catholic and I'm Baptist.
Okay.
We're Baptist. I mean, and
That's my parents. My dad's a Baptist and my mother's Catholic. That's
oh, cool.
hilarious. Yes.
She's smiling over here. But
And my girlfriend's Catholic too, very Catholic. We were walking past a church the other day, and we were going to get some food. We were in Mexico, and they're super Catholic. I mean, a Catholic like Superman Catholic. And she's walking past the church, and they were having some service inside. I don't know exactly what's going on. I'm not Christian, you know. I'm a believer in God, and I just love hearing about how people come to their faith. I think it's always interesting to me.
oh yeah.
So we're walking past to go get like a cheeseburger or something. I don't know what we're doing. And the guy, I don't understand Spanish that well. I'm getting better. And he's in there talking, the pastor, the preacher, or the father, I think they call him Catholic. He says something, she does the whole thing.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was like, baby, I don't see any flies out here. What's going on? And she's like, he said blah 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 blah. And then she looked at me and she just, she just kind of says, in a funny way, she goes, shut up, Tom. So you're going to a non-denominational church. I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted that. And
Oh no, you're good, man. I love it. I love
all right,
those stories. And it just hit us, and we decided to get baptized.
she got baptized too. Because they have that baptisms also in the Catholic Church. Okay, all right, well that's great. And you did it together.
Kind of. They usually just get sprinkled, so
It's kind of the same. One's on yeah. It's like you're either a
Well,
SeaWorld getting splashed by the orca or you're Jacques Cousteau. One of the two.
well, see, the Baptist said, "Okay, we're going to baptize you." They put all of you in the water. They ain't taking no chances.
Yes, they want to make sure that you are good to go. No
We're
Achilles
washing
heel,
you.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. George, like always, man, I don't know what else to talk about unless you have something you want to talk about. Maybe you know what? Do me a favor.
Okay.
You were talking about the rock ape last time. Do you have anything that's similar to that or something where you're just like, okay, because now the Bigfoot experience came out. I'm sure there's some experience along the way that someone has told you that you have researched, that you put in your books, that you were like, it's just cool and fantastical, but I don't know, man. This is a little bit much for me. Is there any one of those that have now come to light in your mind because of the experiences you had where you go, you know what? I think this gentleman, this lady was onto something.
Well, I gotta say the story that's in my second book about the creature that they found in Antarctica, the Russian scientist.
We were talking about that one. That's right.
That's the one that it sticks in my mind more than anything because they drilled down and they found this lake under a glacier. They sent the scientists down there to investigate this thing and check it out. And they found this creature with 20 tentacles. And it could spew a toxic nerve agent 30 feet in the water. And it ate some of the scientists. And then I'm sitting here one day looking at Facebook, and this thing, I got all these science things on my phone. This thing pops up, and they actually found a creature like it in Antarctica.
You're gonna have to send me that.
Oh, I'll see if I can pull it up real quick because it's the
You
cool.
pull it up real quick and yeah. See, you're talking about these creatures that can with 20 tentacles. First of all, someone had to count those. Second of all, I don't want to be that guy.
No,
and
I
the
don't
only
want
thing
his job.
I'm out here in the jungle of the Yucatan, and the only thing I'm worried about is jaguars, which are scary as enough, but we know what they are.
They call it an Arctic strawberry feather star.
Arctic strawberry feather star. I can't really see that. We're gonna have to pull that bad boy up.
Oh, I can't
All
get it
right,
to you.
and yeah, no worries. But they found this in under a lake, and this thing also does the same things that the story was saying, that it spews the toxic.
They're not saying anything. They just said that they found this bizarre creature that has 20 tentacles. They didn't really go into detail about anything else, but they said it resembled an alien or something from a horror movie.
Okay.
I'll send you the article on it.
Yes, I'll put it. I'm going to put it in the show notes. I'm going to put it in the show notes so people can follow that up.
But it's in livescience.com.
Okay.
So that's supposed to be a reputable
source, yeah. Right?
Mm-hmm. I can't talk today. You have to.
Me either. Sometimes I'm somewhere on the spectrum. You know how it goes, George.
Oh, I do. I found that so wild because the Russians denied it, and they denied it, and Putin said no, this didn't happen, and then this pops up. And it's just and the other creature, I actually had read a eyewitness account after I put it in my book. I'd already published a book. It's about that South American plant that eat people.
Yes.
Well, I actually got to read a live encounter about it from a reputable scientist.
Let's get a little light. There we go. All right.
All this stuff though we've always believed is just myth and legends. Actually, they're starting to find a lot more of them.
Right. It's not because they're not cryptids anymore. They're actual quote unquote scientific fact now. That's interesting. That a lot of, I think, even with Egyptology and, like the flood in the Bible, like if you follow Graham Hancock's, him and Randall Carlson, when they're talking about the Ice Age and the comet hitting and all the, all the features in the land out in eastern Washington, it kind of backs up because you can go through any of you and I could go to the Amazon today and run into a tribe that has no connection with the rest of the world. And in their stories of their past, there will be some sort of flood. Yeah. It's very, very interesting. And I think as more of these things come to light, the mysteries that this world has been hidden from us, the more enlightened we become and the more we can grow together. And
one of the reasons for the flood was the Nephilim.
Right, because he seen it as an abomination and therefore, right. Yep. Is this correct? If I'm wrong about any of my
corrupting man.
Okay, anything about my Bible references that I'm wrong on, George, please correct me. I just don't know.
You're killing it, man. You're killing it like always. You did great.
Right. I'm doing the best I can. George, one more time before we get up out of here, tell people where they can find you. Tell them your website and tell them the name of your books and the name of that group that if you can find, wherever you can find you guys. That way they can follow you and check out your research.
That's all right. I'll do it. All right. My books are Legends, Myths, Monsters, and Ghosts, the USA edition. It's 590 pages of stories about your states.
All right.
And along with 5 of the Indian tribes. And I will warn you, most of the Indian tribes are fairly short, but the Hopi like to talk. Their stories are longer.
Okay.
That's why there's only like 3 of theirs on there, because they have very in-depth, active imagination stories. They're really good.
Okay.
And then I've got, if you're a podcaster especially, I suggest if you do this kind of stuff, check out Monsters of the World Reference Guide. I have 104 different cryptid creatures from all over the world and 26 encounters that were sent to me. And I was so honored to tell these people stories because a lot of them hadn't even told their stories to their families yet.
Okay. All right. And that's fantastic.
Of course, you can go to my website, which is author George Lunsford. .x10host.com, or you can go to Facebook, MeWe, Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube. Just pick one. I'm probably
just pick one. type in George's name and you'll find him and his $1 million smile. And thank you very much, Mrs. Lunsford, for making sure that the world gets to see what this wonderful man is doing and his wonderful research and his great laughter and his sense of humor and his great perspective on the world. I really enjoyed talking to you again, my friend.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Stay around for a second. I will talk to you at the end, okay?
Got it.
All right, buddy. So that was George Lunsford. I think you guys enjoyed that one. He collaborated? That's the word. He corroborated the story that last week that Harley was telling me about. We're going to pump this bad boy out on Thursday, so that will be tomorrow, the 21st. So if you guys seen this, you were like, of course it is the 21st. But anyhow, we're going to put it out there. If you guys keep finding yourself coming back to the channel, do me a favor, like at least, put a little thumbs up, a little click, subscribe if you like. If you got any crazy stories, go ahead and contact me. And you will hear how to contact me at the end on the outro video. Until next time, remember, we are the eye. We are aware. Thanks for watching. You have been listening to the Eye of Jupiter podcast. If you have any strange occurrences, stories, or witnessed anything out of the ordinary, don't be afraid to send me an email at theeyeofjupiterpodcast@gmail.com, and maybe you will be on the show. And please remember, we are the eye, and we are aware.